so excited to be doing a solo episode with you today. It's been a minute. My last 3 podcasts, if you haven't gone back and listened, you need to. I have interviewed my son, Keegan, with some pretty interesting insights from his generation. He's 12 years old. We talk about cell phones. We talk about public versus private school. We talk about country versus city living. I felt like he did a great job, and we did not rehearse before that episode. And so you'll see that he gave some real candid response, and you'll get a little insight to how I parent my child and encourage him to be honest with me. We model that a little bit. I also recently interviewed my dear friend, George Zimney. He is the founder and CEO of Producify X, which is a talent acquisition firm. Super great episode. He is an Iron Man, a girl dad, and of course, an entrepreneur multiple times over. And so I think you'll get a lot out of that episode. And then most recently put out an episode on burnout and turnover and the costs associated with my girlfriend, Lydia Melton. She is the chief of staff of Helium. And so great last 3 episodes, all interviews. This one, you've just got me, friends, and we are going to be talking about change and resistance to change and how we can navigate this in the workplace. Change is inevitable, yet it's often met with resistance professionally, whether it's implementing new technologies, restructuring teams, or altering processes. Resistance can arise from employees at all levels in your organization. However, understanding the root causes of resistance and learning how to effectively manage it is crucial for fostering a culture of adaptability and growth within your company. So I think we need to start this out with understanding the why behind the resistance to change. So when we're interviewing folks, people are like, oh, I'm so adaptable to change. I'm flexible. And then they get in our organization and they're just digging those heels in. So what is going on? And I would say resistance to change is a natural human response. And this is rooted in various factors, such as the fear of the unknown, loss of control, uncertainty about a person's role, and a lot of times comfort with the status quo. Change disrupts routines and challenges individuals to step out of their comfort zones, and this many times triggers feelings of anxiety and resistance. And if we're working with, and we know we are, mental health is a huge challenge. If we're already working with folks that are battling with anxiety and then we bring change, all of a sudden we are the problem because we're just piling on an issue that's maybe already not resolved or already flaring up, and we're pouring essentially gasoline on their fire. Plus, resistance can stem from past experiences of failed changes, lack of communication or involvement in the decision-making process, and perceived threats to job security or their personal well-being. So recognizing these underlying concerns is the first step toward addressing resistance constructively. The resistance to change is a complex psychological phenomenon, and I talked about it being rooted in a lot of different things. Let's talk through human cognition and behavior. I want to go a little sciencey on you here because I think this is important before we just say this person's inflexible. So here are some key scientific reasons why people tend to be resistant to change. The first is homeostasis and comfort zones. So humans naturally seek stability and consistency in their environment and their routines. This preference is often referred to as homeostasis. It even sounds like a nice word. Change disrupts this equilibrium, causing discomfort and triggering resistance as people try to maintain their familiar and predictable circumstances. The next is fear of the unknown. I mentioned this. Change introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty can evoke fear and anxiety. The human brain is wired to prefer familiar situations where outcomes are predictable and known. So when faced with change, people may perceive potential risks or negative consequences, which prompts them to almost immediately resist. The next is cognitive dissonance. This physiological theory suggests that individuals strive for internal consistency. Change can challenge existing beliefs, values, or behaviors, creating cognitive dissonance, which is a discomfort caused by holding conflicting ideas simultaneously. I'm going to say that again because you've probably heard somebody say cognitive dissonance before and you're like, what the heck does that mean? This is a discomfort caused by holding conflicting ideas simultaneously, which I feel like my brain does at all times. To reduce this discomfort, people may resist the change that threatens their current beliefs or behaviors because what you're saying to them is just the opposite of what they thought before. So it's just easy to be like, no, I'm not doing that. It's the opposite of what I think. The next is loss of control. I think we're all guilty of this. So change often involves relinquishing some degree of control over a situation. Whether it's changes in roles, procedures, or environments, individuals may resist because they feel a loss of autonomy or influence over their own circumstances. Next is, and this is something we all bring into our professional life, and this is past experiences and conditioning. Previous experiences can change, or with change, can influence how individuals perceive and respond to new changes. Negative experiences or perceived failures from the past may make people feel more cautious or more resistant to similar changes in the future. So you're coming up against things that you are completely unaware of in many ways. Now, maybe you've had some failed experiences in your business, which is causing it to be even worse because they've saw it and seen it not work in the current situation. But regardless, they've had some kind of failure to a change that's been presenting to them in the past. And then here you are bringing on another change, causing some major problems. The next is societal and cultural norms. Society and culture play a significant role in shaping individuals' attitudes toward change. Cultural values, traditions, and norms establish expectations for behavior and stability. Changes that challenge these norms may face resistance due to the desire to conform and maintain social cohesion. And then last thing on this science kick is habit formation. So habits are formed through repetition and they become automatic behaviors over time. So change requires breaking existing habits and forming new ones, which demands cognitive effort and persistence. Sounds exhausting, right? This process can be challenging and contributes to resistance. So understanding these underlying reasons can help individuals, leaders, and at large organizations anticipate and manage resistance to change more effectively. Strategies such as effective communication, involving stakeholders in the change process, providing support and resources, and gradually introducing change can help mitigate resistance and facilitate successful transitions. Let's go a little bit deeper into what you can do when you're coming up against this, because I just went through the scientific reasons. That means everyone is going to experience some level of resistance to change because we all hit on one or maybe all 7 of those. And so that's the impact. Let's figure out what we can do to address it. So strategies for maintaining resistance, I'm going to give you a handful. The first is communication. Transparent and frequent communication is going to be key to addressing fears and uncertainties surrounding change. Your employees are probably going to feel like you're holding things back from them. It's going to cause trust issues. So leaders should clearly articulate the reasons behind the change, its benefits, and how it aligns with the organization's goals. Encouraging open dialogue allows employees to express their concerns and feel heard, and that will help foster trust and buy-in. Does that mean everyone's going to be like, oh, yay, this is a great idea. I love it when you freaking shake my snow globe? No, but it is going to help. And that literally just came to my mind. I had a guy that I worked with, and we had a great working relationship. And every time we were getting ready to make a change, we would say to each other, okay, we're about to shake the snow globe. And like, the funny thing is, for me, I love a shaken snow globe. Like, picture, I live out in the middle of the country. I live on 140 acres. Even in my office right now, I am surrounded by windows, and when it snows, it is just piece on piece. And I get it. For some people, they would feel trapped out here because like no one's grading this road. Let me be honest. But I love that. I love the forced calm that comes along with buckets and buckets of snow. So shake my snow globe, baby, and I am good to go. But I understand that for some people, that's terrifying. They're running the store. They're buying bread. They're not at home like me making sourdough. Like, I could care less. I've got stockpiles of unbleached organic flour down in my storage room, but not everybody's like that. I understand. I'm a different breed. And so when I say I'm shaking the snow globe, for me, I'm like, yes, let's get to it. Like, this feels good. This is the next iteration. This is what I'm craving. But for a lot of people, they're like, holy crap, I need a gallon of milk or we're going to die. Because for goodness sake, I live in Missouri. Within a couple of days, your road is going to be graded, not out here in the country, but in general, everyone's going to be fine. We all perceive it in a different way. So communication is going to be key, not going to fix everything, but it is going to help. The next thing is involvement and participation. So involving employees in the change process by seeking their input, their ideas, and their feedback is going to be pure gold for you. When employees feel valued and included in decision making, they are more likely to embrace change rather than resist it. Collaboration promotes a sense of ownership and empowerment, motivating individuals to adapt to new ways of working. Now, I'm saying this, if you're an employee and you're listening to this, you're like, and also freaking duh, they need my feedback. And I would say to a leader listening to this, and also freaking duh, you need their feedback. Like, don't just do this to appease or to get them to do what you want. You do need the feedback of others. When we are leaders, we are blind in so many ways. Like either we're driven by profits or we're altruistic, a little, that's probably happening less. We're driven by the bottom line. We're driven by our EBITDA. We're driven by our ability to hire more people, whatever it is that we're driven as a leader. Because of that, we are laser focused in our lane, which we should be. Like, I want you to be focused, but this means we've got some blind spots. So pulling in employees, peers, colleagues to collaborate in the decision-making process is only going to help you. I get it. It slows it down a little bit. It's going to be worth it in the long run tenfold. Next is offering education and training. So providing adequate training and resources to equip employees with the skills and knowledge they'll need to navigate the change successfully. Like, why would we not do this? We're saving ourselves time again in the long run. So investing in education not only builds confidence, but also reduces resistance stemming from uncertainty or incompetence. So they're afraid they're not going to know how to do the new technology, or they're afraid it's going to be too hard, or they're afraid of learning something new. So providing adequate education and training, especially in a group setting, is really going to help this. Offering support during the transition period reinforces the organization's commitment to employee development and ensures a smoother adoption of change initiatives. I think I've talked about this on the pod before, but I was in an organization one time that did something really well. They did, some things that I thought were tough, but some things that were so excellent. And two things particular come to mind when I'm talking about training and education around changes. One time they were rolling out company values. These were new values. I've talked previously on the pod about how they created these values. I'm happy to talk to you about mission, vision, and value development. But the purpose of this conversation, they were rolling out something new, and they did a party called a rock and roll out. They had the executives roll up on Harleys. They gave away fake tattoos with the values on it. Like, they did it right. They generated the excitement around the change to where people were like freaking pumped to be a part of it. That was a fun one, right? It's a value statement, not overly invasive. I mean, there might be a time where you're like, ooh, I don't personally live by these, but they were great values. Honestly, the employees helped develop them. So that was a fun change that they were rolling out. They nailed it. There was another time they were changing technology, and this was going to make some people's jobs harder. Now, long-term efficient, but anytime you're changing tech, it's going to slow things down. They did this whole situation where they made t-shirts that said roll out. They had Ludacris on them, which, it was a few years past that when that song had come out, but still like lots of the millennials around that time frame were like, heck yeah, it's Luda. So that was super fun. And then they created where you could opt in to be a champion, and every department had to have a champion, and that champion was pre-trained on the change. So that way when it rolled out, then each department had a go-to person. And I just loved that. I thought it was done really well. Still, it was a change. Still, it was hard, but it made it better by increasing the education and the excitement around it. Next thing that an organization can do is obviously lead by example. So leaders play a pivotal role in setting the tone for change acceptance. And how many of you are listening to this being like, man, I work with a leader that sucks at adopting a change. Yeah, that is a bummer. That person should probably not be a senior leader, but that's a conversation for another time. For a leader demonstrating openness, resilience, and optimism, they inspire confidence and encourage employees to follow suit. Leading by example involves embracing change with a positive attitude, acknowledging the challenges. So people say toxic positivity. I'm not talking about toxic positivity here. And celebrating small wins along the way. Authentic leadership fosters a culture that embraces innovation and continuous improvement. If you're listening to this and you are a leader of an organization and you dig your heels in, I'm going to speak some truth right here. Either step out of the way and let somebody get in the seat who can do this, or do the work yourself. Go through therapy and dig into your scientific reasons of why you've got resistance to this. Maybe just get better sleep at night, nourish your body better so that way you can handle change and you're less irritable. Whatever it is, if you're a leader and you're listening to this and you're like, I know I suck at change, you need to do something about it because everybody in your organization sees it and your team is being held back because of it. Okay, next, an organization can recognize and address concerns. This is part of like bringing them along in the decision-making process. So proactively identifying potential sources of resistance and addressing those before they escalate is going to be very helpful. Conducting regular check-ins, surveys, or focus groups allows leaders to gauge employee sentiment and address concerns in a timely manner. That part's important. Addressing misconceptions, debunking rumors, and providing reassurance can help alleviate anxieties and build momentum toward the change. So resistance to change is a natural response. Obviously, the organizations must anticipate it's going to happen. People aren't going to handle it well. You've got to anticipate it and address this proactively. By understanding the underlying causes of resistance and implementing effective strategies for managing it, leaders can foster a culture of adaptability, innovation, and growth within the workplace. Embracing change as an opportunity for learning and improvement empowers individuals and organizations to thrive in this ever-evolving business landscape. It's just going to happen. So I want to get a step deeper before I close on exactly what like a manager or supervisor can do. Because managers and supervisors play a critical role in facilitating change within their teams and mitigating response. So here are some specific actions that a supervisor can take to help their team navigate change more effectively. Number one, clear communication. Ensure that the rationale behind the change is communicated clearly to your team. I don't care if HR has communicated it, or maybe the CEO has communicated it, or the director of whatever department that's rolling out the changes communicated it. You, as a supervisor, need to understand what's going on and talk to your team about it practically. There's just no way around this. You have to own it and step through this. So explain the reasons for the change, how it aligns with the organization's goals, and what the expected outcomes are. If you don't know, you're failing as a leader. You need to navigate your organization, make sure you get answers to those questions, because shame on you if your employees are frustrated and you're like, yeah, I didn't know either. That does not make you look good. That's not a good look. That's not like, oh, now I'm, commiserating with my people and that's bonding. Like, don't bond over trauma. Don't do that. Get the answers, be the leader, and step up. Be transparent about any potential impacts on the team and address any concerns or questions that arise. This is on you as a leader. I don't care what level of leader you are in the organization. It's on you. It's not acceptable for you to say, like, nobody told me. If you knew something was coming up, get the answers. Next, you need to provide context. So help your team members understand the bigger picture by providing context for the change. Explain how the change fits into that broader organizational strategy and how it will benefit the team and the organization as a whole. When employees understand the purpose and the significance of the change, they are more likely to be receptive of it. Again, if you are a leader and you do not understand enough to communicate that, go do your homework before you go talk to your people. And I'm not talking about 2 weeks late after everyone's pissed. Find out the information proactively, address this head on, be a leader. The third thing you can do as an on-the-ground leader is act as a liaison. So serve as a bridge between upper management and the team, relaying information timely. Relay that information, give feedback and concerns in both directions. Actively listen to team members' perspectives and advocate for their needs while also communicating the leadership's vision and expectations to the team. I'm going to say that sentence again because here's the deal. You naturally as a person are going to latch onto one side of that or the other. I am a process girly, so I am typically the one who's sitting on the back side of this, but I work with a lot of managers that want to sit on the front side of this. We have to sit on both sides of this. Actively listen to team members' perspectives and advocate for their needs, while also communicating leadership's vision and expectations to the team. Both. And they both have to be done. You are like right now, I want you to reflect and think, what is my natural inclination? And am I like a company type of person, or I am an employee advocate? You really, obviously, we should all be working on being both. You've got a natural inclination on one side. So during the next change in your organization, work on the weak side. Work on the weak side. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm going to say it one more time. We want to actively listen to team members' perspectives and advocate for their needs while also communicating the leadership vision and expectations to the team. Both and. Okay, boots on the ground, we need to be empowering and involving. So empowering our team members by involving them in the change process. What does that look like practically? This means soliciting their input, listening to their ideas, getting their feedback, involving them in the decision-making whenever possible. Everything that I just said takes time and intentionality. It takes a meeting on the calendar. It's usually not just like a pop by. You can't do, not pop by. You can't just do this casually in the break room when you're refilling out of the Culligan water system, because you need to do this with all members of your team. You probably have a diamond in the rough with feedback that you don't even know is sitting there, and they've got a perspective on it that you need. This takes intentionality. And if you've got somebody in meetings that usually doesn't speak up, call on them or schedule a one-on-one. Get everyone's feedback and buy-in. When employees feel that their voices are heard and their contributions are valued, they are more likely to be engaged and committed to the change. I've done a previous episode on the pod where I talked about engagement, 23% higher productivity when your employees are engaged. Why would you not do this? We want productive employees. Let's get them engaged. Ways to do that, getting them involved. Okay, next, we need to provide support and resources. So offer support to team members as they navigate the change. Again, we're going back to providing training, resources, and guidance to help them develop the skills and knowledge they need to adapt successfully. Be available to answer questions, address concerns, and provide encouragement throughout the transition period. I have been guilty of this in the past, so I am not pointing fingers here, but saying, well, I just had to Google it when I'm a leader is not really helpful. I get it. You are a bright and shining star who is capable of so much, and your people just aren't as smart or as driven as you. I hear that all the time as leaders. Well, there's a reason why there's leaders, and there's a reason why there's employees. And don't forget, as a leader, you fabulous human being, if you don't have worker bees working with and for you, you are nothing without them. You're going to go right back to doing all of those tasks, which actually you weren't as good at. If you're a good leader, you're usually strategic and visionary. You're not maybe as great of a doer. If you have to go back to being a doer, you're going to be a low performer. You need your doers, your worker bees. And so in order to do that, you've got to help them. You've got to encourage them. You've got to help them with skill development. Just being like, figure it out. Oh my goodness, do not do that to them. You're lowering their satisfaction by the second they're going to quit, or they're going to give you a horrible work product. It's going to negatively impact your clients. Regardless, this is worth the time investment. Next is leading by example. So this is essentially everything that I've been talking about, but leading it by example by demonstrating openness to the change, resilience, and adaptability in the face of it. So showing your team that you are willing to embrace the change and that you are confident in their ability to do the same. Model positive behaviors and attitudes and celebrate small wins and successes along the way. Speaking of positivity, let's talk about fostering a positive culture. So fostering a culture of trust, collaboration, and support within your team. This means encouraging open communication, mutual respect, and a willingness to learn and grow together. And by the way, everyone learns in a different way. So catering to all of the different styles. Creating a safe space where team members can feel comfortable expressing their thoughts, feelings, and concern about the change. Now, this does not mean accepting disrespect. So we teach people how to treat us. And so we can model this behavior by what we accept as a leader. But we need to be open to the fact that they're going to be frustrated. We need to allow them to be frustrated, help them to see how to be frustrated in a productive way, and then help them to see the path forward. Last, boots on the ground supervisor, monitoring progress and adjusting. So keeping track of the team's progress as they implement the change and being prepared to adjust as needed. Monitoring key metrics and indicators to assess the impact of the change on the team performance and the morale, and soliciting feedback from team members regularly and being willing to make course corrections based on their input. If we're talking about a tech change here, I would just look at logins, something very basic. How many times are people utilizing the system? I would take that data, I'd put it out to your team with a systematic approach, once every 3 days, once a week, once every other day, because there are negative consequences to when you're putting data out and you've got people who are resistant. The cool thing about it is there's also positive attributes that come out of that. Like if I'm a person who's adapted to it and I'm like, shoot, this technology is making my life a million times easier. I love ChatGPT. Here's everything that I use it for, or I love Plan That, or whatever system I'm using. And then I see that I have got a homie down my row that is refusing to use something. I'm likely going to be like, my gosh, why have you only logged in twice? That's going to make your life so much harder. Here's what I'm using it for. Or the opposite of that, the person who's being resistant sees that this other person's logging in 16 times a day and they're like, what the heck are you doing in this system? Can you help me? Getting colleagues to help and support each other is going to go a lot further, honestly, than you just telling someone what to do and then dictating that they do it. So putting out this data so they can see each other's utilization, if that's applicable in your instance, is going to be really, really helpful. By taking these proactive steps, supervisors and managers and leaders in general can help their teams navigate change more effectively. They can minimize resistance and ultimately achieve greater success in implementing organizational changes. Change can be chaos in business, regardless of the size of your organization. I'm hoping today you saw that we can take some of that chaos, add a little method to the madness while understanding the root, and offer folks some grace. You guys, the work is worth it. I'll see you next time.